Hello everybody, this is Dr. T. Taveau DRC from Taveau Creative Leadership. We're today down at the Jim Baker properties on Main Street because to me in my life it represents a lot of Christian ministry from that period in time when all the hubbub and stuff went on. That was the beginning basically of Christian celebrity TV and ministry, and then till now. Today I want to address the moms, the mothers. We want to thank all the mothers, the Christian mothers, all the kind of mothers that are really good, hands-on moms. That includes the grandmothers, that includes the seniors, that includes the brand new novices, and I understand it because I have one new grandchild. But I want to say thank you for all the hard work that you put in there. You know, a lot of people on the media, you see horrible things, you see terrible dysfunction on the nightly news. And when I look around in many states, black and white, man, there's so many great children being turned out, so many great parented, well-parented children, even grandchildren, even grandmothers raising their children's children. I know of a special grandmother out in Texas who used to do my nails, and she just did a great job, a hero's job, raising her well-mannered, educated, and gifted two children. So I want to thank you all because you know what? Society of tomorrow, the future Christian leadership, the future men, the future Bible teachers are out there now in their little cribs and their diapers. And also what I love to think as a prophetic minister all my life, I think, you know, the new move of God. There's always a past move of God, a present move of God, sort of a feeling of a new and starting, which we're in now. I hope we're in that one now for ministry. But there's always a newer move out in the seats in the congregation or out in the nursery, out in the Pampers. That is the future group that we want to preserve, hope to preserve a quality of life, a quality of Christian leadership, a quality of ministry, so they really get the idea about who Jesus is, what the Bible's about, why you're born again, that it's not this plaything or, you know, sweet baby Jesus, pull him out on Christmas like you do Santa Claus, put him back in the closet. We want to get it to be practical every day. But first of all, I want to say thank you all for the non-chaotic, the great functioning African American children, Hispanic children, Asian children, Caucasian children, Middle Eastern children. Thank you so much. Those are the ones we want to keep bias free. Those are the ones we want to keep teaching them self-management, being accountable, keeping themselves under control, having an opinion, being bold, being wise, but know when to respect the boundary, equal opportunity, really respect the boundary of another child, grown-up, leader, ministry, because then when they get grown, it'll already be inbred, they'll come naturally, and it will smooth out society. Many times I go back, if I mention equal opportunity, real respect for the office of every human made in God's image, from the highest in the land to the lowest, no matter what their personality, no matter what their race, their creed, their religion, their belief, their lifestyle. It's because God made everyone valuable. Every person, no matter what their credo, their style, their appearance, their earth suit, whether they're in the hood or wearing a hood, all right, those people are equal opportunity and they will deserve respect. Many of them, too many, have not been respected by their mama or their daddy, and they are not knowing exactly how to get respect, except they fight for it. They have to have a temper tantrum or do something that is wild and outlandish, or else they could go into drugs because they get depressed. Not all, but I'm saying there's enough to think that when you're out in society like I am every day, many people are every day, you're going to get a drift of what's going on with or without being in a church. And I'm talking to the non-church goer, usually the Christian who's sort of tired of the system that existed pre-COVID. We hope it won't be there when it allowed to get back at worship full force. But I'm talking pre-COVID revelation, and I'm talking ministry pre-COVID, basically. And now we see signs of life coming back. But the idea is not to, we're talking about the future of ministry, because when I was raised, by God's grace, I had two parents that were happy. They never fought. I never got accused. They weren't biased. So when I think of how a parent can fill avoid, it's called the love tank, the emotional love tank of a child, by being there, being hands-on, knowing they're dear, not abusing, accusing, putting them in too much of horrible television that gets them, their spirit hurt or emotionally depressed or things like that. But I'm thinking in terms of being equal opportunity, not a Christian who is not a racist, a Christian who is against prejudice of all kinds, even from other faiths, not being a belligerent idiot or mean person to disrespect and demean another because they're another faith. That's not Jesus. That's religious spirit. Ugh, mean. So I'm looking back. What happened by God's grace and mercy in my life was like a petri dish, I guess. I had some things that were like not good, like my mom was a micromanager, and I could go on about that. Maybe I'll talk about it. She's a great mom, well-intentioned, but didn't know how not to be a patriarchal matriarch, authoritarian. My dad was not he was the opposite. So I tend toward wanting to be mature and down to earth like my dad, being a persuasive leader, not an autocrat. And that's why I'm sensitive, because people get hurt by the autocrats a lot, too much. I'm teaching that. So when I look back, because I think, well, how did I grow up unscathed by bigotry? I remember growing up, there were race riots and there was all this, just, all the fighting on on the radio and TV back then, the 60s and the marches and Martin Luther King, and I knew of fighting. But in my house, I never heard fighting, and that's rare, but I never heard any bigotry. Here's how I'll know what happens, how it is a homespun environmental product, racism is, accusing another because of their earth suit, because of their look, because you can't identify with the pain somebody might have been through, persecuted, demeaned, disrespected because of their look, their race, their gender, their whatever, size, because you have no heart of compassion, true compassion. You think only of you, yeah, us against them. We're figuring it out. I'm just putting some comments, right? From momming and popping and dadding and just a Christian, being a Christian. So here I was growing up. My dad went to, long time ago, my dad went to seminary in Louisville, Kentucky, and I stayed at home, and my mother taught kindergarten or something. I don't remember. It was some kind of little school, and I would stay with a babysitter sometimes, and then they would be there mostly. And I remember being alone for 8 years. That's why I can do a lot alone and be happy with God, because I was my firstborn child for 8 years. And I knew how to keep myself happy and entertained. But anyway, so I didn't hear of anybody talking against any other color or any other race or any other religion or any other anybody. What I do remember is my mom didn't cook, and my mom couldn't cook. She had great sense, but not practical common sense. So, and her mother was a gifted prayer warrior and intellect, but they didn't know how the practical, how you put some ingredients together and cook. So my fun remembrance of my mom as a little kid was she only made brownies. I licked the batter. So anyway, Dad cooked basically. So those were good. Everybody worked it out. There's no big deal about that. It was sort of fun. So when I remember my life, I don't remember seeing any black people. They lived in an apartment on an alley, which is in a house, and the older man that owned the house lived upstairs. They were in college basically, in their 20s, late 20s. And so I remember Mr. Hubbard, they used to talk about him. He was a hypochondriac. And he would only pass through, going up and hiding in his, staying in his upper quarters, and then they'd see him once in a while. My other memory was that we had a cat, and my grandmother, who was even a more strong-willed matriarch, my dad's mom, would come help also take care of me, the lone child, the practice test drive of child raising. And she and I my fun grandmother, my father's mother, were also, two strong-willed women, didn't hit it off too great, but I was fine. Dad was fine. So we would take walks in the alley and between the houses. And one day I found a cat. And the cat was being chased by the dog, and he didn't seem to own anybody, so we took him home and raised him. And the cat, my biggest memory of the cat was he caught, this is an old house, he would catch little bugs and put them in my mother's slippers. The other thing was that my dad, who was 6'4", would go to school, and he would come home wearing this big, heavy overcoat, full-length overcoat, and the cat would see him and run beeline to the dad in his coat and climb Dad's shoulders and sit there. That's what I remember. So it was fun. I had a happy time, but no racism or accusation. No put-downs. No pet-downs in the family either. So then the Lord spoke. These are Baptists, not charismatic. They're real Christians. They just don't care about, they're there because God is sending them, leading them. One day they felt they're supposed to move to Virginia. So we're in Kentucky, and I went up before my sister came along, and we went up to Virginia, outside of Ashland in Hanover County, where we had a distant cousin we called Uncle Judge Bazile of Hanover County. And he and Aunt Jen were living in the country, and my parents were deciding, would they move? Are they supposed to move? And he knew the location of around that area, Hanover County. And so they were talking adult talk. I was like 5 or 6. So I thought, I am bored. I'm going to go outside and poke around, see what's happening. I want an adventure. So I went outside, and I went next door in the woods, and there's this little teeny house. And it was sort of run down, but it was like there was this house, and I went there, and there was a little boy my age. And I saw this little boy, and he was black. The first black person I ever laid eyes on. And you know what? This is the testimony of good parenting. When I saw my first black friend, that's how I thought. I thought as a child, I had no bias and programmed in me. I saw, look, it's a little boy my age. Oh, and he's black. He looks nice. And that is a testimony of the goodness of God of not raising a racist child. Later, when in college, my roommate and I would hike down, and we'd go to the inner city to tutor at an all-black school, in elementary school. And I remember another incident. I had really long blonde hair in college, down to my waist, the flower child look, So I went in, and my roommate had red hair, long red hair. So we went in there to this school, and everybody was looking. All the little kids were fascinated with our hair because it was so blonde and pale. Well, my little child, named Vanessa or something like that, 3rd grade, one day I went over to her room to pick her up to go tutor. And so I walked to her room, and I said, is Vanessa there? And the little girl that answered the door touched my heart forevermore. She said, and here I am with blonde hair. They're all African Americans. I said, is Vanessa there? I'm here to her tutor to pick her up. And she said, oh, are you her sister? And see, those children are innocent. Those people, that little group was innocent, or that little girl, because she didn't think automatic color. They just saw a person. So racism accuses, putting down somebody for race, gender, look, style. They're not famous like I am, blah, blah, blah. That is divisive, and it is not a Christian trait. I like to think of the big lesson about people who are from other nations and people who are not of other faiths, how they can be so, Jesus' name can be hurt forevermore, and their eternal soul can be forever lost just from people who are demeaning and bigoted and biased. The example is of Mahatma Gandhi of India, who was the pacifist leader, famous wise man. And he remarked, I might have become a Christian had it not been for me meeting so many of his followers. Whoa. And it turned out that he had tried to go and attend a Christian church, but they told him he couldn't come in India because his church was his skin was too brown. And when I was out in the grassroots, finding my way around the area of DFW, out in the human mixture, I realized if a Christian, a minister that's bigoted, racist, chauvinist, demeaning, doesn't respect people of a certain age, doesn't respect peers, doesn't respect anybody but them and their style. Whoa, that is perceived. You will perceive it. It is a perceived gift. So it taught me, that's why I teach about against racism. It isn't just if you're a Christian, a well-meaning Christian. If you are like, oh yeah, I want to be a witness to the Lord, oh my Savior, I'm going to quote the Bible, I'm going to know the Word, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. But if you harbor any resentment to their race, to their style, to their being up and out or down and out, richer and more better off than you, or poor, or in a car living, or whatever. If you have a bias, it's called respecter of person's spirit, which is really a spirit. And it means you are a disrespecter. You are a respecter of only a few certain kinds you approve of in leadership. And the others you really disrespect, and you project accuser rejection because of your legalism, your lack of love, your mama was biased and now you are, all this stuff. So I'm trying to teach discernment, and I'm trying to teach perception and how people feel. If you came from a nation where they're all persecuted, then if you are just going to act so ugly and immature, they're going to know that if you disrespect them. I had a friend from an Arab country, and she stayed with me for 6 weeks, a Muslim Arab. She read her Quran. She was very peaceable and mature, healthy, and just a good friend, quiet, wonderful, smart friend. So we got to talk about the different parts of the Muslim faith and the area over there, and I just enjoyed it so much. It was so helpful. Well, this turned out this very respectful, calm, didn't wear the hijab, but just very down-to-earth person, well-traveled and educated, supremely educated. Turned out that she had been disrespected at the TSA, told, why are you over here? Why don't you just go back home, by the TSA at the airport? She had a fear of the police because everybody, some people know this, many do not, all the people in other nations are on their cell phones watching the nightly news like you are. They're watching America all the time, and her opinion of seeing the police and brutality, this is like 5 years ago, had made her so scared that when her husband, that she had met over there, he came back, he was American, a Christian denominational person, when he got abusive and tried to kill her, because he was drunk, tried to kill her, instead of calling the police because of her fear of being biased against, because some had already, I mean, there's stories, she had many stories about like this, and she said that she just stood there, and I hadn't heard from her. We used to hear each other all the time, back and forth, and message back and forth, and I didn't hear from her for 3 days, so I thought, what is wrong with her? So I called her up, and she was crouched in her house, scared and feeling horrible because he'd been cruel to her, and she was scared. So I went over there, and she said, I just didn't trust the police because, you read about it, and, I'd seen it on TV, and I thought, well, let's go. So I took her to the police with me, sat with her, and they were so respectful. There were black ones that were respectful and white ones that were respectful. I was so thankful for calm and good, respectful police. So you have to think of everybody's backstory. This is the issue. You have to think of their backstory before you put them down. I mean, before you disrespect them, you won't put them down if you're a real Christian. Same with African Americans, same with people who've been abused, gay people. Man, you don't know some of their backstories. You do not know. And some of these people that are now former Christians, Buddhists, Hindu, pagan, all that stuff, I talk with these people. I like these guys and gals because they are honest. They are not self-absorbed. They've got a passion and they're not lukewarm. But they have a backstory, and that is why I'm talking about it, because it's sad. And a lot of them, going back to mamas, a lot of the Christians that used to be in these, hate to say it, homeschool, a lot of Baptists, These people, I don't know what went on. They were not respected. They were abused and accused by Bible believers, and they were put down by their daddies and their mamas. False authority. I think parents, knowing as a parent that made mistakes as well, a human parent, as a Christian, you're scared for their salvation. You don't know what's going to go on. You got to lighten up. You got to respect them and love them and not be self-righteous or overbearing with your Bible. Be pure in heart and calm. One thing I learned from my mother, I want to talk to you about my mom. I could talk to, my dad was so calm as a teenager, as a shy, people who are smart or whatever, they don't want to tell everybody unless they're sure the person can handle it. Well, I knew my mama couldn't handle it. So my lesson is don't make them, let them be able to tell you anything without you showing you're horrified. Because I realized I could tell my dad, I could tell my mother's mother, my aunt, they were not easily horrified. But because my mom was so a good deed doer and conscientious and tightly wound, I guess, pure in heart, wonderful woman, funny at times, hilarious, a rascal. But I knew that if I told her anything personal, she couldn't handle it. She would go off the wall. So my thing is never let them see you sweat. You know that old phrase, but also don't let them know you're that horrified. Just, oh, okay. Okay. And then you go later after they're gone, oh, I can't believe it. So you have to have a little skill. You're just teaching a few skills. Same with a pastor. Same with a minister. Never let them see that you're horrified. If you think, pastor, that they are a Jezebel, the most horrible mega Jezebel you've ever seen walk into your congregation, you're too strong in the Lord to show it. You are not afraid. You are not easily horrified. If somebody, a mama, a daddy, or a person, or a teenager tells you something really horrible, or that they committed adultery, or that they did that, and they shot up drugs, and they beat their mama. Now, if they beat their mom, you got to get the authorities involved. But there's a balance, abuse, you got to report. But I'm thinking, if they tell you something confidential, you got to be quiet. You just got to be calm. You got to pray about it real hard. Maybe talk to somebody else, get counsel, a few friends. If you're married, consult the other half of your marriage. But you have to have a modicum of wisdom. All right, what I want to say is this in my final discourse about moms. All right, good moms are human. What I wish I had known was that my mama micromanaged me and made me afraid to be myself. And I'm not putting her down. She didn't know. And her mama, I don't know what happened, but her personality was fear. That was the issue. She was afraid for me, my soul, my safety, everything about me. So she kept me too close. I was smothered. And when I finally, and then my sister came, that helped diffuse it. My sister's 8 years younger, so they focused on her a lot. But the damage, or the will, I didn't know how to be tough. I didn't know how to be that in ministry. Here's one thing I didn't know that I wish I'd known. I wish I'd figured it out earlier. You have to have, especially a female, you have to have your business side, your drill sergeant, your ministry drill sergeant, because I didn't have my drill sergeant. I wasn't allowed to. And then when I was raised for the next 32 years, married at 21, I was from one controller, there's the next one. And see if you are controlling your child, well-intentioned, but micromanaging male or female, if your dad controlling them, it sets them up to be controlled later. I didn't know that. And see, I know God now, and I went through Texas. After you go through red state country, Texas, you find yourself or you die. DFW ministry, especially. Really, mostly. Because in the barista fellowships or at the gym where I hang out, it wasn't that kind of clientele. And it's like, oh, yeah, they're nice. I can get along. They were bad. So I achieved my degrees in Dallas. I had gotten an honorary doctorate in sacred music in 2004 down in Alabama. But when I went to DFW, I had been in ministry about 15, 20 years, really all my life. And I thought I knew what Christians were like in ministry. And I had been in the prophetic movement and been up and down the East Coast and to Tulsa and Alabama and to Florida many times and North Carolina and speaking and, being sent there on assignment. But I had never, ever, 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 ever gotten into the spiritual realm of ministry in that area of the mega area of Dallas, red state country, basically, with a lot of people famous and a lot of non-famous. So because I'm a perceiver seer, I'm a perceiver discerner seer, it really affects me what an area is like in the spirit realm with relationships. So what I found was after I had to get rid of the angst in my soul, understand what I was up against. If you've ever heard the phrase, somebody said it, not me, some other minister said, there's an anti-you vibe. That was it the whole time, practically the whole time. I could work out, take my Zumba, Zumba and all this stuff, that was fine. Focus on my writing, flourish privately with a few friends. But I didn't know the realm of that turf until now. And I'm thankful to have passed through. So down there, I did find that I got a couple of degrees. One was a PhD. I earned an achieved PhD in Dallas in ministry. Pretty hard days. The second one, PhD, piled high and deep. And then I got a special extra bonus. It was the DFW degree, Dallas Finest and its worst. And those three mega degrees stripped all the fear and anxiety and the people pleasing and the mama says don't go but so far, your little dog at the gate. Some people train their dog not to enter another room. I had that in me. It's like, mom, there's always mom there in the back. Even I'm a grown-up, twice grown-up age almost. All right, I had a mom in there in the back of my soul. I don't know what it was, but it's like, don't be but so bold, don't do but so much. And it was always this thing. And when mom passed, it helped too. It lifted, because that was a controlling personality. And when you're a little kid fed on that forever, it stays, and you have to really overcome that. So I want to be a non-controller. I'm not into control. I'm not into being controlled. And I'm not going to control to the best of my ability. And a lot of people have been controlled, and I want to encourage you not to allow yourself to be controlled. That includes doctrines, knowing your doctrines, because there are controlling doctrines and controlling spirits in ministry. And we want to have love, we want to have joy, we want to have peace, but we don't want to have to always be micromanaged by the system, micromanaged by other people. We want to have the freedom to minister to the Lord, to hear from God for myself. And that's where I've gotten this philosophy. It starts like parenting. Pastors parent, leaders parent, mom and dad as real parents, grandmothers parent, whoever needs to parent, just do it. So we're talking big, and we're talking, don't be mean, assess rather than accuse. Assess, don't fault find, just say, oh, look, it looks like they really are a Jezebel. I had so many of that in Dallas. It's on my brain. I'm getting catharsis. I'm going to talk more encouragement later. All right. But it comes across as mean. And I've always got one foot on the ground. The Baptist in me, the real Christian, there's always going to be there. I cannot get into this spooky realm. I'm sorry. I have to be practical, down to earth, relatable, approachable, just like normal, natural people. Nobody's normal but natural people. That's why I'm discussing this, so that we can help demystify, defrag, reprove the spirit of prophecy, reprove the dogma, the legalism, the part that doesn't represent the heart of God, but instead looks like the accuser. So down there, I had to get my stripped of everything in my life, my family, my ministry I had that had an office and a presence, my music, my livelihood, everything, except, you know what? I met God. I got so happy, so free, that it doesn't really bother me. And that, if anything, is the degrees that I could not have bought for myself. I couldn't have gotten these grace degrees of just being this free, that I don't have to be, and also you get put down, man. Everybody says you're divorced, and I didn't want to get divorced. I didn't plan on it. I was forced into it. I had it. Let's see, Malachi 2 divorce. I had what is it, 1 Corinthians 7:15. If the unbeliever says they'll go, you have to let him, and it's hard. But I chose to say, no, I'm not going to divorce. And he said, well, I'll serve you. And that's what happened. But then all these people, legalists, are looking from afar. They never want to have a relationship. And they say, it's her fault. The woman always did it. The woman, it must be her fault. She must have committed sin. She must have committed that and the other, because their Levitical patriarchs think that way, males and matriarchs. So I learned how it feels. That's all. I had a person that was my helper for a while. I tried to have his staff, and he had been abused by his wife. His first wife, he was married again. Hey, everybody's got a backstory, and nobody has a template. Nobody should be labeled or judged back under the law like Pharisees or made a stereotype. So I'm talking big, talking plain. So let's have this post-COVID Holy Spirit move just wonderful and nice and calm, and everybody mind their own business. And let's get rid of the law. Last thing. One of the things I found that when I was in Dallas, that I could think of my dad, who was peaceful, not religious, sort of natural, and it helped me as a think, you know what, I don't think I'd want to be a Christian if I thought this was Christianity. I wouldn't want to know who Jesus was down there. So it helped me to have a great dad, a real leader, a real Christian dad who was not religious, not religious right, just down to earth and natural, approachable and loving. And it helped me have a good mom. But my dad is what really made it. And also some of the ministries where I am right now in Charlotte. Before I came, I used to come to Dallas. I was coming here. The Lord would send me in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I'd been sent to other parts of the country, like Florida many times, Tampa, Orlando, all that stuff. But there was something here I noticed. It was like, wow, wise, respectable, and respectful, but also just down to earth and really wanting to get in a relationship, a first love relationship with the Lord. So when I came back, it was like, oh, thank God I have meat, not just milk in the area. And I'm so grateful for that. But it makes a difference if there is a father heart, whether it's on a single mama, a single daddy, or a real daddy and a mom together. You can't help what you got right now. You just focus on that love, the love of the first love lifestyle, and then get in there and be the best parent. With God's help, you can be the best leader. I can talk parenting. I love parenting. I can talk leadership. They're the same quality. Assess, don't accuse. Never let them see that you're terrified of what they're telling you, and just be yourself. But don't avoid holding. You got to upfront confront them and hold them accountable, or they're going to turn out like the society and ministry is right now. So mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be adept blame shifters. That was another lesson I learned down there in DFW. Blame shifting ministry, helpers, you name it. So accountability, stand up. Sometimes you got to be not sweet baby Jesus, but God in the garden, up front, confronting but respectful authority, and Jesus tossing over a few temple money changers at times, rarely, but under the Spirit government, being wise. God bless you. This is Taveau DRC signing off for now. Have a great day. Be a great parent in the Lord, in the Spirit, emotionally healthy, all these things. God loves you. Self-government. Bye-bye.